I'm very excited to be here in Japan, and we're looking forward to Japan being one of our most important markets in the world for Tesla. As we're going to talk about in this presentation, we're making a big investment in Japan in charging infrastructure. So with the Tesla supercharger network, by the end of this year, you'll be able to go to approximately 50%, well, there we go. So by the end of this year, we expect that you'll be able to travel for over half of your journey, maybe as much as 70% of your journey, using the Tesla supercharger network. And by next year, you'll be able to travel anywhere in the 4 islands just using the Tesla supercharger network. And the Tesla supercharger network is free to use for Tesla customers forever. So anyone who buys a Tesla Model S will be able to travel anywhere in Japan for free forever using the Tesla supercharger systems. We're also going to be putting solar power with the superchargers. So over time, we will have more solar power generated per supercharger site than the cars use in their daily electricity. So that the supercharger sites will actually be net contributors of electricity to the Japanese electrical grid. So I think charging is obviously extremely important for electric cars. And as I said, we're going to make we are making a very big investment in Japan. We're also going to be establishing service centers throughout Japan. So anywhere you are in Japan, you can get your Tesla Model S serviced. And we'll continue to making investments to customize the car to the specifics of the Japanese market. An important point I should emphasize about the Model S that I think maybe you may know about a little bit, but I think it's really worth emphasizing, is that the batteries in the Model S are all made in Japan. So worldwide, wherever the Model S is sold, United States, Europe, China, anywhere else, all of the batteries for the Model S are made right here in Japan. And the battery is the heart of the electric car, obviously. So another way of saying it is the heart of the Model S is Japanese. And I think that's a pretty cool thing. Let's see. So with that, let me go right into questions that you may want to ask about Tesla. Fire away.
いかがでしょうか。じゃあ青山さんどうぞ。
The reason it's taken a while to do deliveries in Japan is that, first of all, we needed to make the car right-hand drive. So we needed to complete the right-hand drive activity, and then we needed to complete Japanese language translation. So that now that those two things are complete, we're able to start delivery of the cars. We didn't want to deliver a car that was in English or left-hand drive or something like that. And we also wanted to make sure that our initial superchargers were active. So rather than talking about superchargers as some future thing, it's like we already have 2 that are working right now. So we wanted to make sure that the foundation was done right so that when we enter the Japanese market, the customers will be very happy.
小原さん。
Awesome car, but in the future, for the prosperity of Tesla, how important is the Japanese market and also the Japanese technology? テスラにとって日本の技術と日本の市場というのはどのぐらい重要なんでしょうか。
I think, well, Japanese technology is extremely important to the future success of Tesla, particularly through the battery pack, with Panasonic being our main strategic partner. Across all things, Panasonic is our #1 partner. They're also a shareholder in the company, as is Toyota, where we have also a sort of some joint activity. But I see going quite long into the future, Japan being a critical partner, particularly on the very most important thing about electric cars, which is the battery. You've probably read about the Gigafactory, and again, that's where Panasonic will be our primary partner. But there are also a bunch of other partners that supply Panasonic, such as Hitachi and SMM and many others. So there'll be actually many Japanese companies in that industrial complex. But I should also say that we expect to continue sourcing battery cells from the factories in Japan. So it will not be a case of moving production from Japan to the U.S. It will be supplemental to the production that's already in Japan. And then as a market, I think our aspiration is that Japan would be the third largest market after the United States and China. That seems like that's our aspiration. I think it's a good goal to have.
Additionally, for that, how important is it for when you think about trying to broaden the, I would say, usage of electric cars, if you can mention how important Japan is as a market and also as a technological powerhouse for you?
Sorry, to broaden the demand.
Well, I would say not really for the usage of electric cars.
Yes.
There is still hybrid cars. There is still gasoline cars.
Yes.
You are trying to broaden the, I would say, frontier of electric cars, but how important is it in that, I would say, sense of how
Well,
Japan...
I mean, the overarching goal of Tesla is to accelerate the advent of sustainable transport. And then, obviously, with sustainable transport, like electric cars, you have to have sustainable power generation, of which I'm a big proponent of solar. I think the combination of solar and electric cars can actually work extremely well for a country like Japan. Because there's actually enough sun in Japan. It may not seem like it, but it's a cloudy day, but there's actually enough sun in Japan to completely power Japan with just solar. In fact, many times over. And I'm encouraged to see that there's a lot of activity on the solar front in Japan. But in order for the world to transition towards sustainable transport, all of the big economies of the world must do so. And Japan is one of the biggest economies in the world. And so naturally, the only way for a solution to be obtained is if Japan is also transitioning towards electric cars. Sure.
Thank you. Yoko Kubota from Reuters. I have two questions. One is you've just mentioned the Gigafactory, so I wanted to see if you can elaborate a little bit more on the plans. I know you've spoken in detail in July, but I recall that Panasonic is supposed to pay for about 30 to 40% of the total investment,
right.
As well as some other industrial partners being involved. But can you elaborate and update us on the plan of that investment? How much is Panasonic, or how much do you expect Panasonic to pay, as well as some other industrial partners? Who are they? What are they? What are their roles, etc.? That's my first question. My second question is, we've been talking about the Japanese market.
Question by question.
Oh, we'll do the first question,
Okay.
and then we can move to the second question.
Okay, thanks.
I think what I've gone on record as saying is that the expected expenditures to get the Gigafactory up to full capacity they're probably in the range of $4 to $5 billion. Of that amount, Tesla will be providing approximately half, and then Panasonic, maybe 30 to 40%, and then the remainder would be provided by other sub-suppliers to Panasonic, plus the state of Nevada. Now, the state of Nevada has just recently agreed to provide their portion of the support. So I think we're doing very well because we've got, obviously Tesla is signed up, Panasonic is signed up, the state of Nevada is signed up, and we expect very shortly a number of the other industrial partners, most of which are Japanese, would also sign up.
Great. My second question is about the Chinese market. I understand that you're interested in producing cars in China sometime in the future, and I was wondering if you can update us on that plan, as well as what you plan to do with local partners. Thanks.
We're really not thinking about factory. We're not putting a lot of thought right now into factories beyond the main vehicle factory and the Gigafactory. So, in the long term meaning in the 3 to 5 year time frame, I expect that we will need to establish additional vehicle factories and additional battery gigafactories. And it's going to make sense to prioritize that according to where the maximum demand is, so that the logistics costs of transporting the cars are minimized. So it would seem that it would make sense in that time frame to establish a vehicle plant, probably initially in China, probably one in Europe. But there's no, apart from the statement I just made, that's the extent of the planning. So.
You're introducing your Model S in the Japanese market, and obviously there was a Lehman crisis, etc. In the course of Tesla's history. What was the most challenging moment that you had till this point? Till this point.
Well, we've certainly had some very challenging moments at Tesla. The most difficult time we had at Tesla was probably late 2008, when we were trying to close a financing round, but it was at the same time that General Motors and Chrysler were going bankrupt. So to get a startup car company to raise money for an electric car situation while the big car companies are going bankrupt was almost impossible. And the only way we were able to raise the money was I contributed everything that I had. I had to borrow money for rent. And then the other existing investors contributed the rest. And then we just narrowly made it for another 6 months. And then subsequently we got an investment from Daimler, and then later an investment from Panasonic and from Toyota. And those investments were critical to the success of the company. All right.
Yeah.
Hi, Bloomberg News, right here, sorry.
Hey.
So Japan is getting very much behind hydrogen fuel cell vehicles as a sort of next generation technology. And I know you've made very clear your thoughts about that technology. But do you have any, are your feelings any different here in Japan where the government is getting behind this so forcefully with large subsidies and support for infrastructure?
Well, I mean, as you alluded to, my opinion is that fuel cell vehicles are not the right technology solution. But I mean, I think there's maybe is some value to experimenting with different new technologies. So I'm not, in general, I would support trying out multiple new technologies. My personal opinion is that hydrogen is not the way to go, not just because I have an electric car company. I mean, I could have started a hydrogen car company. So this, my opinion, predates Tesla. My issues with hydrogen are just that it takes an enormous amount of energy to separate, to create hydrogen in the first place. It's not naturally occurring on Earth. So you've either got to electrolyze water or you've got to crack a hydrocarbon. If you electrolyze water, it's much, much less efficient by a factor of 3 or 4 than simply charging an electric car with a battery. If you crack hydrocarbons, then you're just basically a hydrocarbon burning car in disguise. So there's no possible win there, is what I see. And then hydrogen is very difficult to store and transport. So it's a very light gas. So any tank that you store it in is enormous because of its low density. And it tends to escape very easily. And if it does escape, it's highly volatile and can have extremely explosive consequences. So I can see a role potentially for hydrogen in say, the rocket business for the upper stage of a rocket, but not really, in my opinion, in any other scenario.
後ろの女性の方どうぞ。
Hello, my name is Kane Nagaki from the Financial Times. I know Tesla has had a very good relationship with Panasonic for a very long time, and I just wanted to ask what makes Panasonic so special for you? And also, Panasonic officials have said previously that they're trying very hard to keep up with your fast, speedy decision-making. And I was wondering if the process on the talks in the Gigafactory, if it's ever been frustrating for you, the speed with which you've carried out talks with Panasonic?
Well, I have nothing but complimentary things to say about Panasonic. That's a great company. And I think in particular, Yamada-san from Panasonic, in fact, I'm going to give him his personal car, which he's buying with his own money later today. He's been an amazing advocate for Tesla within Panasonic. I think we are probably pushing Panasonic faster than they would normally go, but hopefully that is a good thing. I think it will turn out well for both companies. And I have to say that the speed at which Panasonic is making decisions is extremely impressive for a big company. And we really feel very honored that they would take a risk on Tesla. So.
大西さんどうぞ。
日経ビジネスの大西です。非常に長い視点で、経営のビジョンだとか戦略と練られていると思うんですけれども、株式を上場することに対する考え方、どう考えているのかっていうだとか、あとはスペース X の上場に対する考え方をお聞かせください。
I think in terms of going public, the important thing is that the expectations of the public shareholder are not too far from what the goals of the company are. So the reason I haven't taken SpaceX public is because the goals of SpaceX are very long-term, which is to establish a city on Mars. And that is outside of the normal time frame of a analyst on Wall Street. So that means there would be too much of a tension between the time frame of, say, the analysts and investors on Wall Street compared to the time frame of the company. That's why I'm hesitant to take SpaceX public. Even Tesla, arguably Tesla, maybe we took Tesla public too early. But as a car company, we just needed to raise a lot of money to expand, and so we went public. A lot of skepticism initially, or perhaps still is there to some degree. At one point, I think we were the most shorted stock on the entire stock market. So.
堀さんどうぞ。
フリーランスの堀と言います。よろしくお願いします。エネルギーコストについてお伺いをしたいんですが、日本は今原発が止まっていること、そして海外から輸入する燃料費が非常に問題になっています。車を動かす動力のエネルギー源、今後日本の展望について、そしてテスラ社の戦略についてお伺いしたいんですが、お願いします。
Sure. Absolutely. Well, with respect to energy generation, I think by far the most important thing is solar power, because the sun is actually quite reliable as an energy source, and the Earth, if you think about it, is almost entirely solar powered already. If it wasn't for the Earth, we would be a frozen dark ice ball about 3 degrees above absolute zero. But the sun keeps us warm. It provides the whole system of precipitation. It is the energy source, or is the energy foundation for almost the entire ecosystem of life as we know it. And the amount of energy we actually need from the sun to run civilization as we know it is only a tiny fraction of what actually lands on the surface. So there's huge potential there. So I would recommend that as the most important long-term focus. I think also geothermal is important. Hydro, wind, anything that's renewable in the long term. I'm actually not personally opposed to nuclear. I think nuclear just needs to be done with a lot of thought, with a lot of careful forethought. Like to say, in a worst-case situation, will the nuclear power plant be okay, or will it cause some issues? I personally visited the Fukushima area, so I'm familiar with what the devastation is that a tsunami can occur, can create. So obviously one wants to be careful and make sure that any nuclear power plant that is open can be resilient against such a scenario. If it can, and there's a good scientific basis for concluding that, then I think it actually does make sense to reopen on a selective basis the nuclear power plants that are resilient against a tsunami. That's my honest opinion.
どうぞ。
Hi, I'm Masahiro Nakagawa from Toyo Keizai. For autopilot kind of system, what is the time frame of getting vehicles equipped by autonomous kind of system, which is popular among Japanese or global automakers? And second one is about navigation system in Japan. There's no navigation system, just Google Map at the time of launch right now for Model S. So what do you think about that?
Sure. So one of the great things about the Model S is that we're constantly upgrading the software. And those software upgrades apply to the existing fleet, not just to the new cars. So we don't quite, we have Japanese maps right now, but we don't have Japanese navigation. But that will be uploaded to the cars within the next 2 to 3 months. So within a few months, the cars will have full Japanese navigation capability. And there will also be a bunch more additional features. In fact, probably in a week or so, I'm going to talk about, do a worldwide press conference on version 6 of the software and everything that can do, which I think is really cool. It's all about sort of customization and the car learning your behavior and adapting to you. And I think that some of that functionality is going to be really, really cool. So in terms of autopilot, I'll speak about sort of what's happening in the long term. Long term meaning, say, 5 or 6 years. I would, in the past, I've said I think it'll take 10 years before consumer cars can do full autonomous driving. I would probably update my estimate now to say it's more like 5 or 6 years. Yeah. Essentially, in the past, I was extrapolating more on a straight line basis, but what I see is that the rate of evolution of autopilot capability is more like an exponential function. And so if you plot the curve to the points, it would appear to be accelerating quite dramatically and probably in the 5-year time frame. And now regulatory approval would probably still take another 2 to 3 years after that.
あと2、3問と思いますが、いかがでしょうか。大浜さん、どうぞ。
すいません、テレビ東京の大浜です。これから先なんですけれども、トヨタ自動車との協力関係っていうのはどんなふうに考えていらっしゃいますでしょうか。もうモデル S っていう立派な車もご自身で作られて、まだトヨタから学ぶことっていうのはあるんでしょうか。
We have a very good relationship with Toyota, and they're a significant shareholder in Tesla. The RAV4 program is expected to come to an end later this year, but I think that if you look out maybe 2 or 3 years from now, that I would not be surprised if there is a significant deal with Toyota and Tesla. So we have no definitive plans, but if you said what's my best guess, I would say my best guess is that there'll probably be something significant maybe on a much higher volume level in 2 or 3 years. But we love working with Toyota, and we have a huge amount of respect for them as a company, and certainly much to learn.
皆さんのスピードから言うと2、3年後って随分先のように感じるんですが、もう大規模なプロジェクトっていうのを考えていらっしゃるんですか？
We don't have anything specific planned, but the constraint that we're trying to overcome in the next few years is that of battery cell production. So in order to overcome that constraint, we really need the Gigafactory production to go live. And we're expecting that the Gigafactory output would be approximately, this is a very rough guess, something like 2/3 for Tesla vehicles, but 1/3 for stationary storage and other vehicles. So we're actually intentionally leaving excess output capability for the Gigafactory in order to potentially supply other companies with battery packs. Yeah. But until we have that production capacity, it actually isn't possible for us to supply battery packs because we have the cell supply shortage.
他にいかがですか？じゃあ小原さんもう一度どうぞ。
すみません、特許について、交換について聞かせてください。You've opened up your patents, and it seems like a very significant thing for a corporate company to do. What's your strategy behind it, and how do you intend to keep up your competitive advantage in the field of electric cars?
Sure. Well, I mean, the reason for open sourcing our patents, or essentially making them available to anyone who wants to use them, is to help encourage the development of electric vehicles, even if they are competitive electric vehicles. I think it's extremely important to the world that we accelerate the advent of sustainable transport, and I don't want Tesla to do anything that would slow it down. Now, this may turn out to be, in the future, people may look back at it and say, well, this was a pretty foolish decision, and now you got your butt kicked. that may be the case, in which case, well, damn. But I think the more important thing is really the acceleration of electric vehicles. So hopefully our patents can be of some use to some companies and do some good. Yeah, and hopefully it'll encourage more electric vehicles. That's really the only reason we did it. And I hope it doesn't turn out to be a dumb decision.
Do you have plans for overcoming that dumb decision?
Well, I think the most important thing is to keep innovating. So, I mean, all patents really do is they slow down competitors. It's like if you're a ship and you're dropping mines behind your ship to slow down the other ships, you know. And we don't want to drop the mines. So, but I think true competitive advantage on technology front is more about your rate of innovation than it is the degree to which you're slowing others down. And also, you see a lot of these very big companies and these big patent battles like Apple and Samsung, and like who is really winning there except the lawyers, honestly, you know. I think the true strength of Tesla will be decided by its pace of innovation. Are we making our products better at a really fast rate? If we are, then I think we will not need to worry about being able to sell out our cars. That's the main thing.
東洋経済山田と申します。テスラとしてその利益を上げて大きな企業になっていくということと、もしその EV を社会に普及させるということの、どちらかしか達しない場合っていうのは、なんて言うんでしょう、EV が普及すればある意味そのテスラが犠牲になってもいいというような感じに非常に聞こえるんですけれども、そういったお考えは持っていらっしゃいますでしょうか。
Well, that much is obvious. We've already chosen that one. Yeah, for Tesla, we do have the option of slowing down and I think if we slow down our investment and our R&D, we would definitely be profitable in that situation. But I think it's more important that we try to increase production, bring more affordable electric cars to market, even if that means that we are not profitable in the short to medium term. So yeah, we've certainly chosen the path of high growth over the path of profitability. One thing I should point out is, Tesla has no special ownership class. Okay, so there's only one class of common stock for Tesla. I personally own like 20 or 25% of it. So there's an easy remedy if the shareholders don't like me. They can just fire me. Yeah, so I would encourage them to fire me if they think I'm doing a bad job.